Glenn says, I have no idea what I'm doing. Sorry about the raised hand. Oh, no, it's much even worse. We don't even know enough to understand to go look at the raised hands. So it's worse.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to react to that.
Hello.
Good job.
I just find it humorous that Erik has every copy published of Great Post Erik. Every
single one.
I have one in my office, in my closet, but it's going to take me 10 minutes to go track the dang thing down. You should show the audience how cool that thing looks.
We did that last week. I don't want to spam these poor people with my nonsense.
Great book, Erik. Buy my book. Yes.
I love on the spine it says Great Post Brent. It's the thing ever.
Layers and layers of fact checkers and editors.
Indicative of the quality of the overall book. You open it up and it's all Guinness Book of World Records pages. We just copy paste from somewhere.
It's just old newspaper clippings.
I'm gonna go out on a leap that you do not rewrite your draft as much as Patrick Rothfuss does, who rewrote one of his books 400 times.
Oh goodness.
Nope. No, I don't even fix typos, man.
Ship it.
Left as an exercise to the reader.
It's even worse because the whole thing's made up of blog posts, and you know what our quality is like on the blog posts. It's amazing. Our source code compiles.
Oh yeah, the code wasn't the problem today. It was me. It was user.
Both Rob and Mark Kent Rob Barn and Mark Kent have pointed out that we're all wearing black. This is to commemorate Richie's release. When he does a release, we all have to wear black with the errors that are involved in that.
Well, Erik doesn't wear anything else but black, so it's up to the rest of us.
I usually wear black outside, but I'm usually in some kind of pajama top for this call, so it's usually some kind of bright color. It just happens to be black today.
Now, why do you wear black outside?
It matches with everything. It's so easy.
Yeah.
It hides stains,
Most stains. There are some stains. Black just highlights.
Mine's technically gray, but it's Adam Savage's.
Richie wore that last week. Now
I wore that last week, yeah.
Yeah, love that.
Did you buy two colors? Is that what you did?
I did? Yes. The light gray and the dark gray. And if he'd offered more, I probably would have bought colors. Those are my colors. It's true. Well, we got so many questions, we might as well go ahead and get started. And folks, feel free to get your questions in. If you add your questions in the GoToWebinar questions pane, we'll go through them first come, first serve. And first up is a mysterious VRP. VRP says, frequently we have an issue of not being able to connect to port 1433. When we check with Telnet, oh, I love Grandpa VRP. You're with me and remember to use Telnet. Yep. We're unable to connect to SQL Server. No ports being blocked from antivirus. After restarting the SQL Server services, we're able to connect using 1433. What should we do to troubleshoot this next?
Turn on the remote DAC.
Yeah. Elaborate.
That's what you should do.
Yeah.
So usually when you just suddenly can't connect and then you restart SQL Server and you suddenly can't connect, you've hit an issue called thread pool. Tara's blogged about it. I think everyone's blogged about it at some point. Don't feel bad though. You just got to check your wait stats. If you see thread pool creeping up in there, even if it's like, tiny increments, then it's most likely the problem you're hitting. It's usually caused by blocking. It's usually caused by parallel queries getting blocked because they just take a whole bunch of threads and hang on to them and they get blocked and they hang on to those threads and then all of a sudden you're out of worker threads. So that's usually what it is, and turning on the remote DAC, enabling that, will allow you to sneak in your little VIP entrance to SQL Server and start figuring out what exactly is causing your thread pool waits. You can run like who is active or blitz who or something, and off to the races.
That's good.
Have any of you guys ever tested telnetting to the SQL Server port when
Yes.
thread pools happen? Okay.
How old do you think I am?
Not when thread pool's happening though. That's a great question.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I use telnet all the time and try and figure out why I can't connect to a box. But I just wonder if telnet would fail when thread pool's happening, because you're still connecting, just that SQL Server is not allowing you in because the server's out of threads.
Yeah.
Work threads.
Logins. That's such a cool question. Now I want to find out, but not badly enough that I'm going to go recreate the thread pool waits.
Yeah.
See, Christian asks, we have page life expectancy dropping to 0, and there doesn't appear to be a performance dip. I've looked for large queries scanning big portions of data, along with queries with large memory grants. Wow, you're like ahead of, dude, the 2 for 2. You're doing good. He said, what else should I zero in on?
Look at your jobs. See if there's anything that lines up with when it drops, because, I mean, there's lots of things that can, plummet the PLE, like, index maintenance, update statistics, right? Those two. You can also check the error log to see if the whatever it is, the DBCC stuff is happening that has wiped it out.
Or when you said error log too, the other thing you could say, maybe something's forcing external memory pressure, like something else is driving SQL Server low on RAM, some other process is doing something in SSIS package.
Check DB will.
Mm-hmm. But if nobody's complaining too, I would go on with your day. Go find the things people are complaining about, like everyone wearing black in the webcast.
I'm like, what does PLE drop from? Something from like 100 to 0, then it's.
Yeah. What number? And do the math on that, because if it's a number that's not ever reaching past a day's worth, the PLE is in what, minutes or minutes. See if that number even correlates to how often you're running some of these jobs. Because maybe you're never getting up to a really high number.
Or maybe it's dropping from 5,000 to 4,000. Who cares? Dan says, a client with offline CPU schedulers says that they did this on purpose. They want to keep 2 cores for the operating system. Help me explain why leaving it this way will cause performance problems.
How do they know the operating system is only going to use those 2 cores? What Windows magic do they have? I've never seen anyone be able to say, hey, Windows, you can only use these. But I don't. Maybe there's maybe they know something I don't, which is possible. I've just never seen it.
Maybe they have some other app that they've hard coded to only use specific cores. Although I smell BS too there.
Yeah, I've run into that.
No program is going to do that of their own volition and say, let me go ahead and do core programming. Woo!
Mm-hmm. No, I've run into that a few times. One person had a bunch of like JRE executables that were like part of the app on their server, and that's why they left like 2 to 4 cores offline. Other people have claimed that it's for like SSRS or IS or whatever. I'm like, dude, you can't just be like, no, you only get these. They use what they want. Like so, if they can provide some substantive proof that Windows is only using those cores, then word up.
Man, this is an interesting one that Richie might be involved with too. Mark asks,
oh boy,
what's the best way to coordinate 2 jobs across servers? We're trying to do backups on one restore and restores on another. We'd ideally like as soon as the backup job finishes for the restore to kick off.
Just add another job step to your backup job, and have it connect to the other box. You can do a SQL CMD and do SP start job on that on that restore. So the backup job will kick off the restore. Or you could do it in the reverse. The restore can monitor the backup job, I guess, and just pull it until it's done. But I would just add a step to the backup, since that's the sequence.
I love that. Next up, Michael says, there's a SQL Server 2017 server running on 2016 Hyper-V. I restored a database for testing. SP Blitz takes 8 seconds on the 2012 server, but it seems to hang on 2017. SP Who is active shows that it's checking for heaps. The database is all heaps, and it's got about 10,000 tables. Where should I be looking?
At your heaps, boy, fix those.
Fix the problem. Don't try to troubleshoot bullets.
The hell? I got to read these questions before I ask them out loud. Yes, so I think all of us would have a problem with 10,000 heaps in a database. Mark says, "Good afternoon." Or on the bright side, you found the problem. All right.
Yes.
Yes. Mark says, "Afternoon, all. I have to add a word about time zones here. It's 9:20 a.m.
Yeah, it's like
over into California. This time zone thing has me so flummoxed. I'll be looking at. I'm like at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I'm like, where did all the emails go? Oh, that's right. Yeah. Most of the country's done for the day. Yes.
Oh, and what was the error that I got when I did the deployment today?
Oh, time zone.
Time zone.
I hate time zone so much. Mark says, good afternoon all. I have to add additional files to my database as I'm reaching the max size of the partition. Oh, goodness gracious. Should I add additional log files as well?
No.
Why?
Well, like you just shouldn't at all ever. All right, like if like you have a very tiny drive and you have a log file that's starting to get bigger and bigger and it's starting to outpace that drive, then yeah, you might need to add a second log file until you can get that drive situation remediated. But SQL Server writes the log file serially, so it only writes the one at a time, and it'll kind of like Ouroboros them, just like with a regular. Just like if you have a single log file, it'll do that from front to back. Anyway, like it'll just do that same thing. It'll just do that same locomotion serially across a whole bunch of log files. So no, you don't really need extra log files unless you're running into some sort of apocalyptic situation with the one you got.
I always love, every now and then you'll read some extreme edge case of someone who actually needed like 8 log files, and when you go in, I'm like,
right, yeah.
I don't even know how you found that problem. That's amazing. That's
the only person I've heard talk about that ever was Thomas Grozer, and it was when he had like I want to say like 128 1 meg log files, each on like a specific portion of a specific drive, and everything was like used like circularly in some way that just like increased throughput on his whatever crazy Superdome gambling box by like 3 billion%. And it's just, like listening to it, you're like, wow, it's amazing you came up with that. And then it's just like, man, why didn't you just get some SSDs?
Yes. Hope I never have that problem. Sri has a tough question. Sri is looking for a new SQL Server DBA job. He says, any advice or tips, or what's the best way to get one?
Interview. Apply. No, I don't know.
Cross apply.
Yeah.
Cross apply.
I don't know. Are you like, what are you doing now? Are you working anywhere near a database now? Are you just like tangentially interested in touching a database? Do you like program? Are you a junior? Do you sysadmin, help desk? Like whatever you do now, however close you are to the database now, your next job should be just get you a step closer to the database until someone finally allows you to put your arm around the database. I think that's my advice. Don't air hand it. Like get in there and hug it.
And only use your arm. I call everybody you've worked with in the past, or email, because as technology people, we don't like phone calls. Email everyone you've ever worked with in the past and just be like, hey, I'm doing more database work these days. I want to make the next step. Because the people you've already worked with, they know you don't suck. They know you're not incompetent. They know you're easy to get along with. They've been out to lunch with you, etc. And if that sentence makes you cringe, if you go, oh, I can't call anyone I've ever worked with before, then it's a big clue to turn around and start doing things differently at your current job. The people you're working around are going to be your network for the rest of your life. As I say these words, I am suicidal looking at the other people. Oh my God, I'm doomed. I'm never going to get a good job. But no, like if any of us know people, that's the fastest route to get into a new company. If you're a faceless stranger, it's really, really hard.
But I don't know, like I just having having put my resume somewhere like years ago, I still get like regular recruiter emails like, hey, we have this technology position open. You might want to move 6 states away.
Yeah, that's always funny.
Yeah.
I got one SSIS expert.
Basic 6. It's like, oh, so you did Visual Basic 6 20 years ago.
Like everyone else.
Yes.
Got a great help desk position for you.
Maybe go to a SQL Server user group meeting. There's always folks. There's usually 1 or 2 folks popping up. Hey, I'm looking for this. I'm looking for that. And there's usually a recruiter hanging around there, lurking around the back. You can notice the recruiter because he's the only one that's talking to people. That's the recruiter.
Yeah. Usually overdressed.
Yeah.
Pablo says, my app takes 1 minute to execute an operation. I captured all kinds of metrics, and they say that the T-SQL always finishes in 2 seconds max with no waits. Where should I go to seek the bottleneck?
Seems like your application needs to be checked into. Sounds like the query's completing very fast, and the bottleneck's in the application.
Yep.
I'd also look at the metrics on the app server, like how busy the CPU is, whether it's swapping to disk too.
You know, so like async network I/O is a good wait stat to keep an eye on. If you know, if SQL Server is just kind of fire hosing data at your app and your app is not responding in a timely manner. I saw recently that balanced power mode on the CPUs on an app server was cutting app response time by like 30 to 50%. So, you know, little things that you can check on.
Now, run a profiler in your application because you may be getting the data, but you may be doing some processing on that data, which is taking a long time. So the profiler will tell you how long each function and each line is taking to execute. So
what's a good profiler to run for that kind of app code?
It depends on your language.
Okay. Assuming it's like probably like C# or something, because it's what would you use?
I forget the name of it. It's the one that JetBrains uses. Well, I haven't had a need to run C#, you know, profiling in a very long time.
Richie has a stopwatch.
Whatever the one at JetBrains is running. Hey, I write fast code, man. I don't need to profile this. What are you talking about?
I thought he was totally going to go for, well, when I fix Brent's queries that come out of Power BI, I get out the hourglass.
Oh, can I tell you, I went in yesterday to say, okay, well, I want to see where the slowness is going in on the server, and like the top 10 queries slow is like Brent's Power BI's queries, boom, 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 and I'm like, all right.
I don't write lightweight queries. I don't also write good queries. And then there's like no where clause. Give me everything.
That's true. There's no where clauses.
So I am like the sermon. I'm like the preacher who stands up on the pulpit and goes, don't order by in the database. Order by in the database is a bad idea. And you know what I have to do in my queries? I have to use order by because Power BI can't manage to order stuff by default on multiple columns. If you want to sort on 3 columns, you have to come up with a synthetic column in the application or in the database server and then order by that on the way out. And then Power BI will get it. I had to ask Erik for help in order to. I'm like, what would be a synthetic column I could create?
Can you imagine the level of desperation that comes from asking me? That's like unless it's like I need help moving, then
he was so. Brent was so embarrassed. He didn't ask me. He asked me.
Sad. How do I come up with a row number on multiple columns? I suck so bad at windowing functions. It's legendary. I'm just. It's not like I don't like them. They're awesome. I just don't ever get to write new queries.
I think I had a presentation on windowing functions I probably should throw your way there. Maybe. No.
Unsubscribe. Unsubscribe.
You know, we could also just hit like, you know, like some torrent site and get Tableau server or something.
God,
you wouldn't say that if you used it.
No, probably not.
See.
But I would say that if I used SSRS, which is almost Power BI, so I'm probably going to want to get Tableau.
You would say it if you used Power BI.
Power BI.
Well, I do. I hit refresh on Power BI and I'm suicidal.
That's because it hits refresh on Brent's queries. That's why you're suicidal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, the lights go dim at Amazon. Yeah.
I just love watching the little thing spin, and it's just like refreshing, waiting on other queries, refreshing, waiting. It's just like 12 of like this number of rows loaded, and it's just spinning, and I'm like, oh.
We had a huge spike in read IOPS yesterday, and I'm like, well, what is this? What is going on here? It's like, Brent, was that you? It's like, no, that was not me. I ran it this time. It is not. And I'm like, you do realize this was like 2 o'clock Eastern. I was like, oh wait. Yeah, that was me. I'm on West Coast now.
Oh, I'm like, I still have time before the afternoon rush to go run a bunch of Power BI queries. Oh no, it's already afternoon in Miami, it's probably tomorrow in Miami.
Yeah, it is. Welcome to the
future. It is. Or yeah. Anna says, do you use alias names for SQL servers? What are the pros and cons of using a CNAME for access to your SQL server?
No really, drawbacks on it. The only thing I can think of is, needing to have a relationship with the DNS team so that if you switch servers, you can get that switched over. And remembering, on upgrade night, you need to get the DNS team to be ready to make that change. Otherwise, you're going to be waking someone up.
True. Marcy asks, I was stumped by something that feels like it must have an obvious answer. Why would an execution plan have an index seek on a non-clustered index? Everything that it needs is in the non-clustered index, but it still does a key lookup to the clustered index.
It certainly needs something. Look in the, was it the output list of the,
Yeah.
you know,
Or
see
predicate.
what's missing. Yeah, you hover over it and see what it's missing. It's grabbing something.
Yep.
Something's in there.
She says the predicate and doesn't show any columns, and the output doesn't. She didn't say the output, but I'm guessing no in Marcy. The output's not in there. The other thing you could.
Oh, I was gonna say, if you're able to share the execution plan, stick it on paste the plan, and I'd be happy to take a look at it.
The other thing is if it's a modification query, if it's doing an update, then that can also get locks on the. I've seen that grab the key lookup on the clustered index, but. Niraj says, oh, Niraj, ouch. Niraj says, I was asked in an interview, our database went into suspect mode during a restore or recovery. How would you fix it?
And I would fumble in an interview for something like this, because how often does this happen? I mean, it happens so infrequently. I mean, sometimes things go into suspect because you've done something horribly bad, but it's rare that you encounter, especially a production database where you're having to do recovery. I mean, certainly in a test environment, this type of thing might happen, but in production, rare.
And suspect is, it's not like it's
suspect is
storing.
Yeah, it's some kind. I mean, probably you've lost the disk behind the database.
Yeah.
There's something really bad happening there.
That happened to me my first day on my last job. I was sitting there looking. I was like just sitting down. I had like just gotten my laptop, and like I was going.
They had just given you access too.
Exactly. And like I had like a week or two worth of alert emails that I had to delete from before I could like get on my email account. And so I'm going through those, and like new ones start coming in. This database is in suspect mode, and I'm like. That's it. Like, wow. I'm going to get fired on my first day.
Day one hazing rituals. That is amazing.
Oh, that would be good.
It turned out that the sand guy was like moving a lawn somewhere, and it was expected, but I'm like, no one told me. And I was just sitting there like, I was like, I'm done.
Why is it always the sand guy?
Oh.
Because they have the most power. They control like everything. No matter what you
when
use.
they work, it's transparent.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah.
But then
It's
when
really-
things break,
It's really payroll that has the most power, but that's okay.
human resources,
Yeah.
especially our human resources. The other thing I'd look at is just, and this is terrible, I know I'm going to get flamed for it by somebody, because you can never say anything perfect with a suspect, but one thing I would check to see is often I've seen antivirus grab a file when SQL Server restarts, grab lock on a file, and then not let go when SQL Server is trying to start up.
Yeah.
And then it's just a matter of getting access to the file again. That can help. But the first thing I'd say, too, is if the thing goes into suspect mode so often that you're going to ask me that question during an interview, let's talk about your storage and your hardware. And is that something you're going to have me do every day? Because I'm not sure I really want this job.
Fire drill.
Anna asks, how do y'all manage large amounts of VLFs?
Fix it. You need to fix it. Once you fix it, it shouldn't happen again. So fix your autogrowths. Change them to, so it's not, 1 megabyte or some low number. You want it to be a little bigger, but not too big. So don't set it to some really large number. But if you fix it, it should not happen again on that database. It's autogrowth. The size of the autogrowth of the log file is what's really important. But to fix the issue, you need to shrink it down to a really small size, grow it back out. But changing the autogrowth, it needs to happen so this doesn't continue happening.
Daryl says, SQL Constant Care is warning me about too much memory. I thought I was doing them a favor. Can I just push the memory back down? These folks build cubes, and I thought more memory would help. Well, the way that query is working internally is it's checking to see that if your buffer pool had stuff in it and is now empty. Typically what this is driven by is either someone ran a query with a large memory grant, and you mentioned building a cube, which can totally do it. Select star from table with nowhere clause, giant order by. That query may need a giant memory grant in order to run, and then it turns around and after SQL Server frees all that memory to go run that query. If you run SP Blitz Cache with the sort order of memory grant, you'll see the queries that have been getting large grants. That's what I would go through and look at troubleshooting. Do you have queries that say you've got a box with 256 gigs of RAM? Queries are getting 60 gigs of RAM every time they run. That's when you start going to tune that thing. Stephen asks, I would like to know your point of view on upgrading SQL Server from 2012 to 2016. Are there any considerations I should look out for or risks?
Yeah, 2018.
I don't think I would bother with 2016. I would go with 2017 if 18
Yeah.
wasn't out.
It's not like getting a deal on a used car. Right?
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I'm going to get the 2016 model because it's cheaper. Go to 2017.
You know what? The County of San Diego has that's where I started my IT career. They have a policy, and they are not the ones who run the IT. They outsource that. But the County of San Diego, the government has a policy that they can never go beyond the current version. They always have to be one version back, and it's because of running Microsoft, products all these years and running into major operating system issues. And so they have this policy, and now the outsourced company, the IT people, they can never be on current technologies. So it's a bad policy.
What about an in-place upgrade? Should they do that?
Yeah,
No.
sure, why not?
Well, we're doing dumb crap. We might as well just do
I
it.
know.
Let's just make the most of this. Explore the space.
Yeah. Keep an eye out for the cardinality estimator too. There's this cardinality estimator that's impacted when you change the compatibility level on a database. But I'm a huge fan of the Microsoft SQL Server upgrade guides. They published huge upgrade guides. You don't read the whole thing. No one has time for that. What you just go is look at the table of contents, and you'll learn a ton of stuff just by looking at the table of contents, the stuff they warn you about.
Pay special attention to breaking changes.
Yeah. Small note. Nika asks, is there a good explanation online? No. About the metrics that Management Studio shows under index usage statistics, for example, range scans and singleton lookups. I'm trying to figure out what's going on, specifically index operational statistics.
Well, we have to wonder why you're using Management Studio's, index stuff. Use our SP Blitz index. It'll become more clear.
Yeah, big time.
Well,
Yes.
I don't ever look at that stuff in Management Studio. Index usage. I wouldn't even know how to get to that screen.
Yeah.
Things you forget. Reports, maybe?
yeah. No, and the DMVs are actually really good in terms of the books online documentation on DMVs is really good. I just don't think any of us pay attention to the specifics inside those range scans and singleton lookups, because a range scan can be good or bad. Singleton lookups can be good or bad. That's okay. I just want to know that the index is getting used.
Yeah, I mean, also oh, go ahead.
A lot of times I want to target that range scan, right? I mean, I want to hit that because that's where I want to go. Hey, I write better queries than you, Brent. Just remember that.
Look, I need select star with all of the singleton lookups. I need to do range scan.
We're just going to
Brent's
cross
like predicates.
tables.
I've never heard of her.
Predate? What? Nika follows up with, can I use SP Blitz Index in production? We don't really have dev. Don't ask. So if I had to pick the level of risk between running SP Blitz Index in production versus the level of risk of not having a development environment, guess which one I'm more concerned about? Take a wild, hairy guess.
But to answer the question a little bit, we run SP Blitz Index in other people's prod all the time. So we're pretty cool with it. If it does anything weird on your server, let us know. We have GitHub for that. That's our insurance policy. You can let us know.
Requests.
Ron asks, is there a police department copter over you, Tara? I hear them broadcasting over a speaker.
Creep.
What? No.
Stop triangulating Tara. Monster.
Ron's in East County too. I did hear it was on Monday. I heard helicopters outside, and then I just seen in one of my Chrome windows a notification of a fire in San Diego had broke out. And so I'm on the call with my client. I was like, I'm in California, and it is very, very, very active fire season. I'm gonna look out the window real quick just to make sure.
Make sure the fire isn't coming towards us. We're good.
It was the one that started Ramona. I think it was on Monday, but I think that one's under control.
There have been a lot of fires this year.
Yes.
A lot.
Yeah.
Nuts. John asks, I have SQL Server 2016 with databases in compat level 2008. Is that limiting SQL Server?
You're not getting some of the T-SQL features. I mean, it just depends what you need.
Yeah.
not getting some of the new cardinality estimator stuff.
A lot of people don't want that new guy though.
Backfires.
Will that mess up some of the window? That'll mess up some of like the windowing function and like the over clauses for that were added in 2012. So like you can, like as far as I'm concerned, like you can pretty safely bump up from like 2008 or 2008 R2 to 2012 without sweating too much about what's going on there. Obviously the later bump ups can cause some bumps in the night, but I mean 2012 would probably be my bare minimum right now, just because in case anyone doesn't know, 2008 and 2008 R2 are no longer supported in like a year.
It's coming fast. It's going to come really fast. Because of course, the time you start having that discussion with management about, hey, this isn't supported next year, it's not like they're going to go, oh, well, go ahead and install 2017. Go ahead, you can do that this weekend.
Yeah. We just got this new server in. Crazy to mention it. We had all the paperwork ready, and the budget was there. It was amazing. It just stars aligned.
Yeah. I had a sales call 2 days ago, a while back, and somebody has had the hardware sitting in the data center for over a year. They're like, oh, it's ready to go for the new SQL Server. I'm like, man, by the time you put it in now at this point, this isn't normal. Why do you leave it on the pallet?
We had a client, like not just a sales. We had a client who had a brand new 2016 box sitting around forever and ever, and they didn't do anything with it. They didn't move anything over to it until they found corruption on their 2008 box. And so that was the impetus to like start moving. So I'm like, oh wait, this one's screwed. We gotta go. Like they get like something like they're like forced out, like pushed out in order to get off that hardware.
We should get all our listeners together and do like a potluck hardware kind of thing so that the people with the extra hardware could give Nika his development server.
See, I tried to do that, but then Brent made me turn down the hardware in RDS. So.
Yeah, it's true. Richie went in armed for bear.
If anyone wants to buy my current desktop, I will sell it to you autographed for like twice as much as I paid for it.
Does that come with a warranty on it since you built it yourself?
Yeah, the warranty is whatever the Postal Service will cover for insurance.
Comes with tire treads.
I can send this thing media mail. So.
Well, that does it for this week's Office Hours. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us, and we will see y'all next week. Later, everybody.
Bye.